This is the WGNS Action Line, talking with Rutherford County newsmakers about what matters most to you.
Your host, J. Paul Newman of the monthly District Attorney Show.
The viewpoints and opinions expressed on this broadcast are the viewpoints and opinions of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints and opinions of this show, its host, or the management of this station. You are listening to WGNS. We welcome everyone to the program. My name is J. Paul Newman. My co-hosts today are Rutherford County District Attorney General Jennings Jones and Rutherford County Assistant District Attorney Trevor Lynch. We thank WGNS for providing the airtime. And we also thank our producer, Scott Walker. Most of all, we thank you for listening. We will begin our broadcast after you listen to these important messages.
Talking with Rutherford County newsmakers about what matters most to you. This is the WGNS Action Line.
Local farmers, local meats, vegetables, and other produce at the Winter Spring Rutherford County Farmers Market.
Bundle up and make your way every Friday at Lane Agri Park.
This is Peter Demas, and our family is inviting your family to come eat with us at Demas's restaurant. We're trying to give them a place where they can eat with their family that's not fast food. We want to create an atmosphere where we can sit down and just have a good old-fashioned family dinner. But unfortunately now, most people can't do it at home. So, two people are working, the kids' activities, and so what we're doing is we provide that and we make it affordable. Come eat with us at Demas's restaurant on Northwest Broad Street.
On today's Call to Conviction segment, we will highlight the last time there was a death penalty trial in Rutherford County. Stay tuned. During today's broadcast, on our Call to Conviction segment, we will review a trial from the past. It is a tragic case involving the robbery of the Old Charlie's restaurant on Memorial Boulevard and the murder of the restaurant's manager, Nader Bamanziari. To discuss that case will be Detective James Abbott of the Murfreesboro Police Department. We welcome you to the program and thank you for listening and ask for your help in seeking justice.
From call to conviction, time now for a look back at one of the more intriguing and important cases for this community. From the crime, the investigation, to the prosecution.
Just after midnight on February the 3rd, 2008, an extreme act of violence occurred at the Old Charlie's restaurant on Memorial Boulevard. That act impacted the city of Murfreesboro forever. A masked gunman robbed the restaurant. It is a robbery where an innocent life is taken. For during the robbery, Nader Bamanziari, the manager of Old Charlie's restaurant, is killed. Several employees witnessed the robbery. They watched in horror as the armed and masked gunman forcibly entered the back door of the restaurant. They felt the urgency of the situation as two of their fellow employees tried to escape danger, quickly entering the manager's office and locking the door behind them. That was the same office where Nader Bamanziari was working. Mr. Bamanziari reacted quickly and called 911, while the robber was attempting to force the door open. On the 911 tape, you can hear the robber's voice. He was yelling, "Open the door! Open the door!" You could also hear the robber repeatedly kicking the office door. The robber takes his pistol and fires twice through the office door. One shot strikes Nader Bamanziari. The robber is then able to get the door open. On the 911 tape, you also hear the robber say, "Give me the money, give me the money." After getting the money, the robber flees, leaving the small group of Old Charlie's employees in terror, and leaving Nader Bamanziari on the office floor, fatally wounded, but being comforted by his co-workers. Police and ambulances quickly arrive. Nader Bomanziari is taken to the hospital. But, despite the best efforts of medical professionals, Nader Bomanziari does not survive. He becomes a victim of senseless violence. Nader Bomanziari was a devoted and loving husband and father. To his employees that he managed, he was a mentor and a role model. And to many more in the community, he was a friend. Mr. Bomanziari was not born in America, but he loved America. He died as he lived, bravely, and surrounded by people who cared for him. Through excellent police investigation, Antonio Alexander was developed as a suspect. Alexander's van was found abandoned in the Old Charlie's parking lot. Items were found in the van that tied Alexander to the robbery and murder. Other items were located in a house that was under renovation on Maple Street. Those items included clothing worn by the robber. And later, a pistol was found at the Maple Street location. The Murfreesboro Police Department worked around the clock, leaving no stone unturned. They interviewed several witnesses who provided crucial information regarding Antonio Alexander's movements the night of the murder. On February 6, 2008, Antonio Alexander is arrested and charged with the robbery of the Old Charlie's restaurant and the murder of Nader Bomanziari. With us today in the WGNS studios is Detective James Abbott of the Murfreesboro Police Department. Detective Abbott was one of a team of law enforcement officers who responded to the Old Charlie's restaurant that fateful night. Detective Abbott, we want to welcome you to the broadcast. We want to congratulate you and the other law enforcement officers who worked so tirelessly to solve the murder of Nader Bomanziari. Of course, this was an horrific scene to respond to, and I imagine it was quite shocking. Can you tell us what the officers observed inside the restaurant when they went inside that night?
Well, when the officers first arrived, the initial responding officers, we had a real good response time to the scene of the crime. And I believe that is one reason why we'll talk about later about evidence found there at the scene to include the suspect's vehicle as one reason why he had to flee on foot. Officers responded quickly. Upon arrival, they found the victim, the manager, wounded inside the office. At that point, they called for EMS. They also found the other victims inside the office as well. Keep in mind, this is a office there at the restaurant that's very closed, restricted movement. So it was a very bad scene for what they found there at the scene.
What of particular interest was found outside of the office?
Upon the officers' arrival, as I said, there was a very quick response. Officers there, if I remember correctly, I think there was less than a minute response by some officers that rolled up on the scene initially. When they first arrived, one of the officers started looking at the vehicles in the parking lot, running tags, and that's when we came back with the vehicle that belonged to Mr. Alexander found still in the parking lot. They also found a roll of duct tape near the back fence. So this was some of the items that they found in the back parking lot, which kind of began to lead to other items of evidence that we followed up on.
Can you tell us about how your investigation led you to a house that was under renovation on Maple Street and what was found there?
Well, while we were looking around the area where the duct tape was found, you keep in mind this occurred in the early morning hours. It was still dark outside. As it got more light during the morning hours, we began to look around in the area a little bit better, did a better canvass of the neighborhood around the area, looking for any type of surveillance cameras. While we were doing that, we were discussing where the roll of duct tape had been found by the officers near the fence in the back parking lot of O'Charlie's. Upon observing where that area was, we looked over the fence to see if we could observe any items of evidence on the other side of the fence, and that's when we found money. And we began finding money laying in the ground on the grass, and we basically just followed the trail of some loose money that clearly someone had been running while they were trying to put this money in their pockets. And we followed it to the abandoned house there on North Maple.
What items were found of interest inside the abandoned house?
Inside the abandoned house, we found a pair of dark color coveralls, which was which was the clothing described to us by some of the witnesses there at the scene at O'Charlie's. We also found a pair of yellow gloves inside, type of work gloves. And again, that was something that was described by the victims at the scene, saying that the suspect was wearing a pair of yellow gloves. Also, later during searches of the house, we found the actual pistol that we believe was used to kill the manager there at O'Charlie's.
I also understand that your investigation led you to a dumpster in another location. Can you tell us how that was developed and what was found in that dumpster?
Well, as the investigation proceeded, we began questioning people, interviewing individuals, to include Mr. Alexander. And as he would give us information, he did talk to us, and as he was giving us information, particularly alibi information, we began to follow up on it. And while we were following up on that information, we spoke with a fellow employee of his that he worked with, and that employee had advised us that Mr. Alexander had come to his house early that morning and asked to change clothes. And the gentleman told us that the clothes that Mr. Alexander was wearing at the time had been thrown in the dumpster across the street. So myself and Detective Singleton, John Singleton, who was the actual lead detective on this case, we went to that dumpster and actually began to search that dumpster. And we found the clothes. And we were lucky because this was about 24 hours after this all had occurred, the robbery homicide had occurred. So we went to the dumpster, we went through the dumpster, and we actually found the clothes, to include a pair of shoes as well. And what I'm going back to these shoes for is that was one of the things that we found inside the abandoned house, because it was a house that was abandoned, but they were doing some work on renovation on it inside, and so there was dust on the floor. And so we were able to look at these shoes and the bottoms of these shoes, the soles of these shoes, and see that type of impression in the dust inside that house as well. And so that, going back to your forensics as well, how that ties in and helps build these kind of cases.
As part of the trial preparation, I understand that there was a made-to-scale replica of the office where Mr. Bomanziari was killed that was constructed by members of the Murfreesboro Police Department.
How that helps, and as y'all wanted to show in the courtroom, is just how small and confined this office was. And you had not only the victim who was shot and killed, but the other employees that were inside trying to push the door closed. And of course, you keep in mind this was a Dutch door, and they're trying to keep the door closed while at the same time, on the 911, trying to call 911. Having this scale and having that right there in front of the jury was able to actually see just how confined the victims were inside this little room while the suspect was sticking the gun through the Dutch door and firing into that room. Now,
this was a tragic and a sad case. Can you tell us about the Murfreesboro Police Department's interaction with the Bomanziari family?
Again, Detective Singleton, who was, like I said, who was the lead detective, and he did just a great job working with the family and coordinating with family and O'Charlie's and with all of us, and we just kind of followed his lead on where he needed us to go and what to do. But John was talking to the family throughout the investigation, again talking with folks from O'Charlie's as well. A lot of times it's kind of hard to be speaking with people when it comes to a case. You're trying to remain, you've got the investigation and staying focused and things like that. But Detective Singleton, he's one of those people. He can really relate to people and really talk to people and get down and almost feel and understand what they feel. And like I said, he just did a tremendous job with the family and with the O'Charlie's folks as well.
And speaking of the O'Charlie's folks, can you tell us about the cooperation of the O'Charlie's restaurant and management?
They were very cooperative from the get-go. Anything we needed, they assisted with. And though we didn't ask or anything, right off the bat, one of the first things they wanted to do was begin a reward to help lead to the prosecution and conviction of the individual who did this. We had an excellent relationship with the folks at O'Charlie's.
I've noticed that the O'Charlie's restaurant established a memorial garden at the entrance of O'Charlie's on Memorial, and there's a bench there, there's flowers, and there's a plaque dedicated to the memory of Nader Bomanziari. How do you feel when you walk past that memorial?
Well, whenever I've been to the restaurant, I've eaten there several times after all this, and not just seeing that, but just passing by that restaurant, I think it kind of reminds a lot of people of the tragic event that occurred there, but also how we often feel safe in our own neighborhoods and our own communities, and I think this event kind of brought it home that this could happen anywhere, and so I think it kind of, sometimes, I hate to say it takes away our innocence a little bit.
I want to congratulate you and the entire Murfreesboro Police Department for bringing justice to this case. This case is a wonderful example of excellent police work by dedicated professionals. The trial of State of Tennessee versus Antonio Alexander began on July 19, 2010. The judge was the Honorable Don R. Ash. The defense attorneys were Herschel Koger of Pulaski, Tennessee, and Barry Tidwell of Murfreesboro. The prosecution team consisted of District Attorney General William Whitesell and Assistant District Attorneys Trevor Lynch and J. Paul Newman. During Antonio Alexander's trial, I played the 911 tape for the jury. In just a moment, I will play the tape for you. Listener discretion is advised.
Somebody out there.
911 emergency. Hello? Get somebody out to 1006 Memorial Boulevard, Old Charlie's. He said, open the door, open the door. I don't know what it is.
Get over here. Get this one. Pick it up.
On Saturday, July 24, 2010, after 5 days of testimony from over 40 witnesses, the case was placed in the hands of the Rutherford County trial jury. After approximately 90 minutes of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. They found Antonio Alexander guilty of attempted aggravated robbery, guilty of especially aggravated kidnapping, guilty of especially aggravated robbery, guilty of reckless endangerment, guilty of second-degree murder, and guilty of first-degree felony murder. The jury's work, however, was not yet done. For in Tennessee, the sentencing for first-degree murder is determined by the jury. Judge Don Ash ordered that the penalty phase of the trial would begin on Monday, July 26. After hearing the penalty phase proof, the jury was faced with deciding the proper punishment for Antonio Alexander. Their options were three: life in prison with the possibility of parole, life in prison without the possibility of parole, or a sentence of death. After approximately 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their decision. The jury decided that Antonio Alexander's punishment for the murder of Nader Bamanziari should be life in prison without the possibility of parole. It now turns to Judge Don Ash to set the sentence on Antonio Alexander's other 5 convictions. He added another 90 years to serve on top of Antonio Alexander's sentence of life without the possibility of parole. Under that sentence, Antonio Alexander will never be released from prison.
The Rutherford County District Attorney's Show. Retired Assistant District Attorney J. Paul Newman featured on the Action Line the first Friday of each month.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. Want to take charge of your energy bill? Download the free MyMTE app to track your usage, pay bills, and report outages right from your phone. Download in the App Store today.
Visit RecycleRightTN.com for tips, ideas, and locations on where to recycle near you.
Don't be trashy, recycle classy, recycle right, Tennessee.
Recycling isn't just about tossing materials in a bin, it's about knowing which materials are accepted. Go to RecycleRightTN.com.
Recycle right, Tennessee.
Hi, this is Dan with Music World and Drummers Den. Our prices are as good or better than the box stores. I don't think you'll do better by shopping online than you would by coming in. Something new we've just added to our repertoire is drum repairs. You can have drums cut, covered, rewrapped, new hardware. We will fix them, make them look like new again. I'd like to thank you for coming by to see us again at 2762 South Church, right across from the golf course. Music World and Drummers Den. Thank you very much for being our customers.
The Action Line on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
35 years. That's how long your family has trusted my family to care for your pets. Hi, this is Amanda from Animal City. From the entire team here at Animal City, we want to say thank you, Murfreesboro, for allowing us to be your local pet and pet product experts. We have grown up with you, and we're grateful. Stop by and celebrate 35 years of local love with us. Animal City, it's more than a store, it's our home. Animal City, 919 Northwest Broad Street in Murfreesboro.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric, who remind us that better communication leads to better service. Keep your contact info current at mte.com so you never miss an update on billing or local outages.
What's the law? Time now for an examination of the laws of Tennessee. This is not intended to be legal advice and is being presented solely for the informational benefit of our listening audience. You should always consult with an attorney whenever you need or rely on legal advice.
Here's Assistant Rutherford County DA Trevor Lynch.
Good morning, listeners, and thank you for joining us. Today, I will discuss with you how a defendant or the District Attorney General can appeal the ruling of a trial judge that was made before the trial begins. Tennessee Rules of Appellate Procedure Rule 9 is an interlocutory appeal by permission of the trial court. It states that an appeal by permission may be taken from an interlocutory order of a trial court from which an appeal lies to any one of the appropriate appellate courts. That would be the Court of Criminal Appeals or even the Supreme Court. Only upon application to and at the discretion of the trial court and appropriate appellate court. So both the trial court and the appellate court have to agree. The reason the courts will look for will neither control nor limit the court's discretion. These include the need to prevent irreparable injury, giving consideration to the severity of the potential injury, the probability of its occurrence, or the probability that review upon entry of final judgment will be ineffective, meaning if the judge was wrong, could the error be corrected later. The need to prevent needless, expensive, and protracted litigation should also be considered, giving consideration to whether the challenged order would be a basis for reversal upon entry of the final judgment, the probability of a reversal, and whether an interlocutory appeal will result in a net reduction in the duration and expense of the litigation if the challenged order is reversed. And finally, the need to develop a uniform body of law, giving consideration to the existence of inconsistent orders of other courts or whether the question presented by the challenged order will not otherwise be reviewable upon entry of final judgment. So what is the procedure to obtain permission to appeal the trial court? The party seeking the appeal must file and serve a motion requesting such relief within 30 days after the date of entry of the order appealed from, meaning you have 30 days from the time that the judge files his order to appeal his decision. When the trial court is of the opinion that an order is nonetheless appealable, the trial court shall state in writing the specific issue or issues the court is certifying for appeal and the reasons for its opinion. The trial court's reasons must specify the legal criteria making the order appealable, the factors leading to the trial court of the opinion that the criteria are satisfied, and any other factors leading to the trial court to exercise its discretion in favor of permitting an appeal. The appellate court may, in its discretion, allow an appeal from the order. Now, from hearing that, what you're being told is basically a trial court will make an order, and then a party will say, well, we would like to appeal it to the Court of Criminal Appeals or the Supreme Court because we believe you're wrong. Then the trial court has to look at what their order was, what their finding was, and make the determination, I may be wrong, I think I might be wrong, and I'm going to allow you to appeal it. So as you can imagine, that is not something that happens very often. If it does happen, however, how is the appeal sought in the appellate court? After the trial court gives you permission to appeal, then you file an application for permission to appeal with the clerk of the appellate court within 10 days after the date of entry of the order in the trial court, or the making of the prescribed statement by the trial court, whichever is later. The application shall contain a statement of the questions presented for review, a statement of the facts necessary to understand why an appeal by permission lies, a statement of the reasons supporting an immediate appeal. Within 10 days after filing the application, any other party may file an answer in opposition after the answer is filed, or if no answer is filed within that time period, the appellate court shall either grant or deny the application. If granted, the trial court clerk must file the record on appeal within 30 days from the date of entry of the order granting permission to appeal. Even if permission to appeal is granted, that does not stay the proceedings in the trial court unless the trial court or appellate court so orders. So if permission to appeal is granted and the trial court or appellate court stay the trial court proceedings, then the matter shall be fully argued either in person or by briefs to the appropriate appellate court for a full hearing on the issues. Now, there is also the existence of an application for what is called an extraordinary appeal, but that's a lesson for a different day. Thank you for joining us today. Stay safe, and may God bless you all.
Local farmers, local meats, vegetables, and other produce at the Winter Spring Rutherford County Farmers Market.
Bundle up and make your way every Friday at Lane Agri Park.
Hi, this is Wanda Mills, and I'm here to invite you to come and visit Adam's Place. One of the most important things is we live in independent living, but the whole campus will become available as we need it, whether that's assisted living or memory care or health care. We picked Adam's Place because that was available. I'm Wanda Mills, and I invite you to come and visit Adam's Place.
This is Inside the Courts. A look at this month's trials, pleas, and grand jury action. Inside the Courts is presented as a courtesy of the Rutherford County Clerk's Office.
Good morning, everyone. This is Assistant District Attorney General Trevor Lynch, and today I will be your tour guide through this episode of Inside the Courts. Now, we begin this segment by stating that none of the defendants named in the upcoming trials have been convicted, and they are presumed by all law to be innocent. With that as a prelude, we will now go inside the courts. Pending in our General Sessions Court, State versus Kevin Padilla Martinez and Azel Lopez Hernandez. On December 14th of last year, officers with the Laverne Police Department responded to a residence on Gary Lane in response to a shooting. Officers arrived on scene and discovered Mr. Andres Olea Perez with a single gunshot wound to the chest. Mr. Perez died from his injury. Detective Nicholas Ledke was assigned as lead investigator. Kevin Padilla Martinez, Azel Lopez Hernandez, and a juvenile suspect were apprehended while attempting to flee the area in an automobile. Mr. Martinez, Mr. Hernandez, and the juvenile suspect were charged with second-degree murder and reckless endangerment with a weapon. The juvenile suspect appeared before the juvenile court on March 4th of this year. Mr. Martinez and Mr. Hernandez are scheduled for a preliminary hearing on March 10th of this year in the General Sessions Court for Rutherford County. Mr. Hernandez is represented by counsel Mr. David Clark, and Mr. Martinez is represented by counsel Mr. Christian Moore. The state is represented by Assistant District Attorneys Trevor Lynch and Matt Westmoreland. State versus Waquanta Bailey. On April 19th of 2022, officers with the Smyrna Police Department responded to a residence on Cannon Drive in Smyrna, Tennessee for a 911 call reporting shots fired with injuries. Upon arrival, officers located the body of Mr. Jacario Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn had been shot multiple times. Detective Steve Martin was assigned as lead investigator. A canvass of the area revealed a residence with home security cameras and several witnesses. Through the assistance of a tip line, Mr. Waquanta Bailey was developed as a suspect. After investigating Mr. Bailey, he was charged with first-degree murder. Mr. Bailey's next court date is set for March 24th of this year in the Smyrna General Sessions Court. Cases currently pending in our circuit court include State versus Shakira Brown. On October 13th of last year, officers with the Murfreesboro Police Department responded to a 911 call for shots fired at a residence on Lascassas Pike in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Upon arrival, officers discovered Mr. Jaleel Turner lying unresponsive on the floor of his apartment, suffering from a gunshot wound to the abdomen. Mr. Turner later died from his injury. Detective William Pullis was assigned as lead investigator. Ms. Shakira Brown has been charged with second-degree murder. A preliminary hearing was held on February 17th of this year before the General Sessions Court. Upon hearing testimony, the court found probable cause to bind the matter over to the grand jury. Ms. Brown is represented by counsel Mr. Brent Horst. The state is represented by Assistant District Attorney Trevor Lynch. State versus Clinton Johnson. On October 27th of last year, officers with the Murfreesboro Police Department responded to an emergency assist where a man identified as Harold Cruz had sustained injuries to the head. At the conclusion of the investigation, Mr. Clinton Johnson was charged with first-degree murder. On January 24th of this year, Mr. Johnson appeared before the General Sessions Court of Rutherford County and bound his case over before presentment to a grand jury. In August of last year, the grand jury indicted Mr. Johnson for first-degree murder and aggravated robbery. His next appearance is scheduled for May 28th of this year. Mr. Johnson is represented by counsel, Mr. Drew Perkins, and the state is represented by Assistant District Attorney Matt Westmoreland. State versus Rocky Melton, Sashi Rainey, and Billy Mahon. On September 4th of 2024, officers with the Smyrna Police Department responded to a gas station on North Lowry Street in Smyrna, Tennessee. Once on scene, officers located Mr. Harold Webb, who had sustained a single gunshot wound to the chest. Mr. Webb was transported to Stonecrest Hospital but ultimately died from his injury. Investigators located several individuals on scene, including Mr. Rocky Melton and Miss Sashi Rainey. Officers later learned 2 other suspects fled the scene, Mr. Billy Mahon and a juvenile suspect. The investigation revealed that Mr. Melton, Miss Rainey, Mr. Mahon, and the juvenile suspect attempted to rob Harold Webb. Mr. Webb resisted. He was shot by the juvenile suspect. Police later apprehended Mr. Mahon and the juvenile suspect. All parties have been charged with first-degree murder, attempted especially aggravated robbery, and conspiracy to aggravated robbery. Mr. Melton was also charged with providing a handgun to a juvenile. Mr. Melton is represented by counsel, Mr. Ben Lewis, and Miss Rainey is represented by counsel, Mr. Josh Crane. Mr. Mahon is represented by counsel, Mr. Christian Moore. They are scheduled to appear before the Circuit Court Judge on April 30th of this year. The state is represented by Assistant District Attorney Trevor Lynch. Resolved matters before the Circuit Court include Corey Lillard Sr. On March 13th of 2023, Corey Lillard Sr. possessed 3 different Schedule II drugs with the intent to sell or deliver said drugs. Mr. Lillard was also charged with possession of a firearm during commission of a dangerous felony and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. A trial was held in September of 2025, and a jury of his peers convicted him as charged. A sentencing hearing was held on January 13th of 2026, and Mr. Lillard was sentenced to a total effective sentence of 45 years to serve in the custody of Tennessee Department of Corrections. The defendant was represented by counsel, Mr. Will Fraley, and the state was represented by Assistant District Attorney Matt Westmoreland. State versus Cameron Jordan. On September 28th of 2022, officers with the Murfreesboro Police Department responded to a 911 call for shots fired at a restaurant on Rutherford Boulevard in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Upon arrival, officers located the body of Mr. Kevin Washington. Mr. Washington had been shot several times and died from his injuries. A firearm was located under Mr. Washington's body. Investigators interviewed employees and learned that Mr. Washington came to the restaurant to meet his girlfriend, an employee. Mr. Washington arrived to find another male, Cameron Jordan, was there for the same reason. Mr. Jordan had been attempting to have a romantic relationship with Mr. Washington's girlfriend. The 2 men began to argue, and at some point both men produced firearms and began shooting at each other. Mr. Jordan shot Mr. Washington as Mr. Washington was attempting to run away. On April 10th of this year, Mr. Jordan entered a plea of guilty to the offenses of voluntary manslaughter and possession of a firearm during a dangerous felony. The defendant was ordered to serve a total sentence of 6 years in the custody of Tennessee Department of Corrections. The defendant was represented by counsel, Mr. Derek Howard, and the state was represented by Assistant District Attorney Matt Westmoreland. Matters currently scheduled for trial in the upcoming year. A trial is scheduled to begin on May 4th of 2026 on Joseph Gann for allegations of second-degree murder, attempted second-degree murder, aggravated assault, reckless endangerment with a firearm, and tampering with evidence, as well as employing a weapon during an offense and employing a firearm during a dangerous felony. The defendant is represented by Mr. Josh Crane. The state is represented by Assistant District Attorneys Trevor Lynch and Matt Westmoreland. A trial is scheduled to begin on August 3rd of 2026 on Juan Charco for allegations of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, aggravated assault, tampering with evidence, reckless endangerment with a firearm, and employing a firearm during a dangerous felony. The defendant is represented by counsel, Mr. Jeff Cherry, and the state is represented by Assistant District Attorneys Trevor Lynch and Matt Westmoreland. A trial is scheduled to begin August 24th of 2026 on Salim Hamilton for allegations of first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, possession of a handgun by a convicted felon, employing a weapon during an offense, and employing a firearm during a dangerous felony. The defendant is represented by counsel, Ms. Heather Parker, and the state is represented by Assistant District Attorneys Trevor Lynch and Matt Westmoreland. A trial is scheduled to begin September 14th of 2026 on Ahmad Ali and Kenyon Crawford for allegations of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, attempted especially aggravated robbery, tampering with evidence, and employing a firearm during a dangerous felony. The defendants are represented by counsels Mr. Brian Lewis and Mr. Luke Willoughby. The state is represented by Assistant District Attorneys Trevor Lynch and Matt Westmoreland. A trial is scheduled to begin on September 28th of 2026 on Canthony Williams for allegations of first-degree murder, especially aggravated robbery, possession of a handgun by a convicted felon. The defendant is represented by counsel Mr. Rusty Perkins, and the state is represented by Assistant District Attorneys Trevor Lynch and Matt Westmoreland. And that concludes this episode of our look inside the courts.
South Central Bank has 2 CD specials that will help your money grow. South Central Bank has a 5-month CD with an annual percentage yield of 4.15% or a 25-month CD with an annual percentage yield of 3.8%. 2 great ways to put your money to work. You choose the term that works best for you. $500 minimum balance to obtain the APY. Stop by any of our convenient South Central Bank locations today and take advantage of our 2 great rates. South Central Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
The monthly District Attorney Show, heard exclusively on News Radio WGNS the first Friday of each month.
If you missed any part of this program, it will be available shortly as a podcast on the WGNS website. As we end our program today, we thank WGNS for providing the airtime. And we thank our producer, Scott Walker. Most of all, we thank you for listening. We leave now by saying, a safe community is the responsibility of each and every one of us. For my 2 co-hosts, Rutherford County District Attorney General Jennings Jones and Rutherford County Assistant District Attorney Trevor Lynch, this is J. Paul Newman, bidding all of you a safe and blessed day.
The District Attorney's Office thanks you for listening to today's program. If you have any information regarding criminal activity in our community, please contact one of our law enforcement agencies. The information presented on today's show is solely for informational benefit and not intended to be legal advice. You should always consult an attorney whenever you need or rely on legal advice. Rutherford County's most trusted name in news. Talk Radio WGNS, Murfreesboro.